special review. A childhood hero of mine and a piece of nostalgia given form. It is of course Figma Link from The Legend of Zelda. He comes in a pretty standard Figma box. He's Figma number 153 with lots of pretty pictures. As you can see there, with his shield sword, multiple faces, of course licensed by Nintendo. So let's break this open and see what treats lie inside. First things first, a little public service announcement. As you can see here, the sword hilt is extremely fragile. It was practically just out of the box. I was trying to put it in his hand and that happened. Now, the pommel is actually removable to allow easier access into his hand, as you'll see earlier. But the instructions don't tell you this. They tell you how the shield does it, but not on the sword. And my one was actually painted together, so I tried to pull it off first and it didn't move, and I had to submerge it in warm water for a few minutes before it eventually popped off. So be careful out there. There's been quite a few reports of this happening. So let's go on with the review proper. This is of course Figma number 153 Link from the Skyward Sword, not Ocarina of Time. I have to make that distinction. This is actually my first Figma. I have had access to a few before. There's a few around here, but this is the first one that's actually all mine. So there's a few things that's different than what you would expect. The hands are actually quite rigid plastic and quite small, which led to the sword breakage. So let's have a look at the articulation. Now, there is his head, which is very beautifully painted. His eyes are just amazing. He has little pointy elf ears, a piercing, his traditional blonde locks. His hat is poseable. This thing swivels around, easy to pop off and pop back on to convey a sense of action. Now his head is on a ball joint. Backwards is a bit restricted because of his hair and collar. The shoulders are okay. They have front and back motion, but they can't go too high. The mold is just restricted like that. But they go all the way around. There's a weird swivel in the elbow. I'm not sure if it's meant to be there or if it's just a artifact of the way it's constructed. There's a well over 90 degrees, and his wrists, you get what's that, 100 degrees, but his hands are tiny. Maybe this is a Figma thing because it's generally some anime girls, but they're so small. Anyway, he has an ab crunch and rotation, no waist joint proper. His skirt is a soft rubbery plastic, kind of restrictive. Well, okay, I guess not. Making little splits. His little pouches on his backside there. His hips are actually, wow. Okay, those knees, a single joint, fairly good range. Rotation as well for the Figma joints. He has a full ankle rotation and fairly good there. So you can get a fairly wide stance, and he has articulated toes, which I always find odd on a toy, but there you go. So you can, start at a running position or something. So that's his poseability details. Let's take a look at what he comes with. Here you can see all Link's accessories. It's not a whole bunch, fairly standard stuff. Extra face, hands, a sword, and an effects part. Let's take a closer look. I love the ladder thing that Figma hands come with. So this is a sword wielding hand. He is identical left and right ones, so he can be ambidextrous. A more standard holding hand. This is primarily for the shield, but the sword fits in there too to facilitate specific poses. A cam open hand. All the hands have a built-in wrist joint. And of course the high five hand, or the jazz hands hand. He has the regular hair and cam face. Is quite easy to interchange. You just pop off the front of his hair, pop off his face, put on the angry face, and put on the angry hair. It's an also equally beautifully painted face that really changes the personality of the figure. So you can have Link's cam pose and his action pose. The detail on his face here is just amazing. Now, but what's the hero of time without his weapons? Now, this is of course the Master Sword. As you can see, the hilt is slightly worse for wear, but apart from that, it's beautifully sculpted and it's so tiny and a bit sharp. The paint on this side is slightly misaligned. It doesn't bother me, but I imagine it would annoy some people. There's some tiny gold details here, little Triforce. It's really a beautiful representation of the Master Sword. Pity it wasn't as strong as the original. It also comes with a scabbard done up in blue and gold, complete with belt strap, Triforce on the back, and a peg to attach to a hole in his back. And of course the Hylian shield, such a gorgeous blue and silver. Triforce again, the red bird from Skyward Sword. On the back we have an array of holes and straps that you can interchange. This is the default configuration for Link's right hand, but this pops off. So you can put it on here for the other hand. The strap also pops off. Pops off. Now you can actually, this is what the instruction tells you to do. Look at that. And now it won't break. If only the sword had told you that. Now, to attach the sword to the back, what you do is you remove the brown strap, put that to the side, you place the scabbard in the center there, and you just reattach the handle. And now you can peg this onto Link's back. Just like so. And you can just slot in the Master Sword. And Link can carry all his equipment just there. The sword and the shield is a bit wobbly, but it's secure. Now to stick the sword into his hand, the dangerous part. I'm going to baby this now because I'm sure the hilt is extra fragile. Now once this is loosened up, it pops right off and it's pretty secure and very small. You just gently slide the hand in. Like the glue seems to be holding, but I'm going to baby it. you reattach the tiny pommel, and then you can give Link, the chosen hero, his sword. I really love the non-standard sword holding hand. You can get some really natural poses and some really awesome poses. I have the power. He can smite Ganon, he can do everything, and he needs his shield. Shield is just as simple to reattach. Now use the more standard holding hand for the shield. You take off the handle, slot it in, reattach the base, reattach his hand, and then you can pop off the top strap here, and then just line up all the pegs, all the holes, and you have a sturdily attached shield. It holds really well. He can get quite a lot of movement out of it. You can pull off all these standard Link poses. You can actually position his arm so he's actually drawing the sword from the scabbard, which is always a really nice touch. And the final accessory is this translucent piece of energy. It just slides rather easily on top of the Master Sword. Don't try and put it on the wrong way like I did first. And there, it's kind of heavy for his little limp wrists, but positioned in the right way you can get some whooshing. I'm generally not a fan of energy effects, but this is kind of nice. So that was Figma Link from the Skyward Sword. He's a good figure. I don't know if any figure could fully live up to the nostalgia that's in my heart for this character, but I like him just the same, barring some obvious limitations of shoulder articulation and the not telling people about the pommel of the sword, and that in turn being stuck with paint. The glue seems hold now, so maybe the hilt isn't as brittle as I thought. I'd recommend this figure if you're even a casual fan of the series. And if they want to redo him as Ocarina Link, I wouldn't say no to that either. For Link himself, he's kind of lacking in accessories, while the sword and shield are the obvious ones. Maybe an ocarina would have been nice. I know, Skyward Sword. But anyway, the whole point of the game is you run around, you amass these awesome weapons. Imagine a Figma hookshot. That would be great. But yeah, so that was Figma Link. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.